I'm now going to discuss/debate the issue whether Joe Biden should stay in the race and he has any chance of winning or not with Professor Allan Lichtman. He's got 13 keys. Professor Lichtman, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and to have this opportunity to be on your channel.
Yep, and he says he's gotten the last 10 out of 10 elections right. We're gonna discuss that in a second. But Professor Lichtman asked me to start the proceedings, lay out my case so that he can counter it. So I will do that, no problem. So first, let's go through the polling right now to catch you guys up on the context and where we are. And then I will ask Professor Lichtman about his keys. So first, let's look at the polling. Overall, this is the aggregate in polls from Real Clear Politics. And what we've got here is Joe Biden at 36.8%, and disapproval is at 57.3%. So his approval is, let's be generous and say 37. That's a disaster. As I have pointed out many times, it is almost never the case that if you're in the 30s as an incumbent that you could win. We'll come back to that issue in a second. Now let's take a look at how the polling is going in the specific race between Trump and Biden. Again, Real Clear Politics average here. I'm sorry, the earlier chart was from 538. This is from Real Clear Politics. You see Trump has an aggregate 3-point lead and he is winning in every single poll. Important point here, guys, is that the Democratic candidate has to win by about 5 points in order to win the Electoral College. So that means that Joe Biden is in effect down 8 points, not 3 points in aggregate. Remember, he won by 4.5 points last time in the popular vote, but barely squeaked out an Electoral College victory with only 44,000 votes making the difference in 3 swing states. Finally, in terms of the those aforementioned swing states, let's look at the Real Clear Politics average on those as well. Oh, look at that. Trump is winning every swing state and some very comfortably. The fact that Nevada is now 5.2 in aggregate on Trump's side is devastating. That was trending very much towards the Democrats. Pennsylvania has been solidly blue in my opinion, for a long time. I know it's in the swing state category lately because of the changes that are happening in the Midwest, but again, a 5.3% lead there for Trump is devastating, and I'll leave it at that for now. I got one more poll for Professor Lichtman in a second, but Professor Lichtman, you have your 13 keys, but
correct.
Yeah, and you're going to tell us about them, but
correct.
One of the top critiques of your analysis, including by me, Professor Lichtman, is it's not that your keys are crazy or off or wrong, it's that you're too wedded to them as end all, be all, and it appears that you're making a problem or a mistake in thinking that correlation equals causation. And I'll tell you more specifically why I think you're making that mistake as we go on, but I gotta let you respond now.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
Thank you very much. And this is a debate that should never have happened because there is no comparison between my record of predicting elections and the record of Cenk and all the other critics of Joe Biden. Those critics have zero, I repeat, zero track record in predicting elections, including Cenk. In his video, he said he predicted 2 elections, 2012, which he did not document, and 2016, which he did try to document. But one of his followers pointed out to me his documentation was fundamentally misleading. I did my research. His documentation came from July 2016. And as his follower indicated, he then changed his prediction of Trump. And I found the clip. Just 3 weeks before the election, Cenk predicted that Hillary Clinton would win because she was so far ahead in critical state polls, the kinds he's citing right now. And I caught a clip of Cenk after the election in which he said, Hillary Clinton should reasonably have been expected to be president-elect because the polls pointed that way. He never claimed to have predicted a Donald Trump victory, which would have been a huge feather in his cap. But beyond that, his record or prediction is even more suspect. He predicted Bernie Sanders would be the Democratic nominee in 2020 and would beat Donald Trump. He said that Joe Biden, if he was the nominee, would have no chance to beat Donald Trump. Now, let's look at some of those polls, and I'll get to my keys in a moment. Cenk is fighting the last war. He's not up to date on the polls. A whole new series of polls have come out in the last 2 days, which fundamentally contradict Cenk's argument. We had a Washington Post ABC poll that just came out, and it said Biden's debate did not shift the race at all, that it remains a dead heat between Biden and Trump, whether you look at them one-to-one or throw in the other candidates. But even perhaps more revealing is the approval numbers that came out today in the Washington Post ABC polls. Trump at 34% approval, 59% disapproval, a 25-point underwater result. Biden at 42% approval, not 36, 50% disapproval, 8% underwater. In other words, Trump is 3 times more underwater than Biden. And then another poll just came out of the swing states. It was so startling. Fox News, hardly a pro-Biden outlet, had a big headline saying, surprise swing state polls. It looked at 3 states where Biden had been behind, as you point out. It's now after the debate, and Biden is now ahead in Michigan and Wisconsin. He's trailing in Arizona, but he's in striking distance. But as we know, polls months before the election have no predictive value. The keys do. They've been right 10 out of 10 since 1984. The dean of American political science, Gerald Pomper, said they were the most successful prediction system of our time, right in 2016 and going all the way back to the 80s. I twice keynoted the International Forecasting Summit, and the American Political Science Association called the keys the classic model of forecasting. And they show why what Cenk and the critics are proposing would lead the Democrats likely down to the primrose path of defeat. The way my 13 keys work is if 6 or more go against the White House party, they are predicted losers. If Biden runs, the Democrats tick off incumbency, he's the president. They tick off the contest key because 87% of primary voters voted for him. That's who put him in as nominee, not members of Congress. So that means of the remaining 11 keys, 6 would have to fall to predict his defeat. We follow the advice of Cenk and the critics. They lose the incumbency key. They lose the contest key because there's no consensus successor. And that means only 4 more keys would have to fall. Final point, Cenk and the critics say there's some great candidate out there who's going to do so much better than Joe Biden. False. Emerson College, a very respected independent polling operation, tested that. They looked at head-to-head contests, and they found, again, Donald Trump in a dead heat with Joe Biden 50, Donald Trump 50, and they looked at 9 of the most common alternative candidates, and they all trailed Donald Trump by 5 points to 10 points.
All right. So first of all, look, I'll handle this super quickly because this isn't about me or you. It's about getting the audience the right information to figure out what's actually going to happen here. So in terms of my predictions, brother, I've been super honest about all of them. I know you think it's a gotcha, but we've talked about it on air a million times. So for example, in 2016, I said in July, at the height of Hillary Clinton, that Donald Trump was going to win. And why? Because I said the country's in a populist mood. She's the most establishment candidate. So I look at these trends, these patterns, et cetera. Now on election day, you got certain polling, and the polling is likely to be true, and it was true. She did win the popular vote, but we said at the very beginning of that broadcast, myself and Bam Banquets, we said, look, Trump's got about a 30-35% chance of winning. So all these folks like Huffington Post had it at 98%. We're like, that is nonsense. Trump definitely has a chance of winning, despite the fact that it's election day and Hillary Clinton has what appears to be a large lead. So when you look at the trends, I don't know anyone who predicted that Bernie Sanders could catch Hillary Clinton back in 2013. Back in 2013 when everybody thought it was crazy. But we could go on and on about our records all day long. It's not at all relevant. What is relevant though, Professor Lichtman, is whether you can be honest and objective instead of trying to prove yourself right. So for example, I looked up, hey, you said that I was getting it wrong, that no incumbent in the 30s had ever won, and you pointed out Harry Truman.
What I said.
What did you
say? What I said was, if you take outside the keys and just look at history, forget the keys, since 1900, no incumbent party has ever won when there is an open seat and a contested nomination, whereas when there is a sitting president running and no contest, they've won the great majority of times.
Yeah, no, that's your key. I'm saying that if an incumbent is in the 30s, he almost always loses. But to be fair, what I was gonna say is that I was saying always, but actually I looked it up so that it was more granular. I found the more granular polls throughout the entire year. And in 1968, Nixon had fallen into the 30s, but Hubert Humphrey was in the 20s. And so my point here, Professor Lichtman, is that my key is if you're in the 30s, you're toast. But if I was looking at that 1968 election, I would have said, yeah, my key is that if you're in the 30s and you're an incumbent, you're definitely going to lose, except his opponent is in the 20s. So it makes a difference when you look at the context and the situation, and you don't seem to be open to looking at the context. So let me ask you some extremes to see if it jars your 13 keys loose. So what if your brother?
I doubt it.
Okay, I got you. And you're saying raw number, right? Raw number, whoever has more keys out of the 13 wins, right?
Keys, yes.
Yes, that's
Six
right, okay.
Keys and you're out.
Okay, so if let's say that Biden has 7 or 8 or 9 of the keys on his side, right? Or any candidate, forget Biden. But every day he comes out and does a press conference and punches himself in the face. And people are like, whoa, what the hell's going on? The president's lost his mind. Do the keys still say that he's going to win?
Well, this is something I've never heard before, the punch in the face theory of how to predict presidential elections. The truth is, as I said, your predictions haven't worked, and there's a simple.
No, Professor Lichtman, it's a question to you. Don't worry about you can say my predictions suck. I don't mind. Yeah. Okay. So just I'm giving you an extreme example. Or the candidate comes out and every day punches a new baby in the face. Are you still going? Nope. I'm sticking with the keys. 9 out of 13 keys. The keys will determine.
Of course, I'm sticking with the keys because they've been right for 40 years. You can't predict elections from this kind of off the top of your head speculation, which is why you've been wrong so many times. It doesn't work.
Okay, so I can't believe you said if a candidate punches a baby every day in the face, he's still gonna win if he's got the keys. Okay,
I'm not gonna respond to such an absurd.
Okay, let's make it a little less absurd. Everybody thinks that, not everybody, to be clear, 72% of Americans think that he's not mentally healthy enough to be, to run and to be president. And you said that was incorrect. It is correct. We can put up the poll if you like. And in that scenario, he's not that far away from Americans viewing him as Dianne Feinstein. And even today, right before you came out, breaking news, he's at the NATO summit and called Zelensky Putin. So what if he was Feinstein and they're just wheeling him around in like the late Feinstein days? And remember, they were pretending she was fine and that she could still be senator. So if Biden is in that shape, would you still say, nope, I got my keys, keys are gonna determine it?
I'm not gonna respond to these absurdities, but I will respond to your real data, the only data you presented, and that is that 72% thought he was not healthy or had the mental acuity, was too old to run. That does not mean that they will not vote for him, and that's the bottom line. And as we saw, the recent polls, despite all your attacks on him, and all the Democrats' attacks on him, and all the journalists' attacks on him, have not dented his prospects to win according to your criteria, which are the polls. And they certainly haven't changed my criteria with the keys to the White House. And by the way, Donald Trump has committed way worse gaffes than Joe Biden. He confused Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. How could you possibly do that? He didn't know the name of his own doctor, who's been his physician for so many years. He has gone off on the most.
Professor Lichtman,
last sentence. So let me finish my sentence.
Yeah.
And he's gone off on the most incoherent of rants including, sharks and electric boats. So you got to, you say your system is based on looking at campaigns and candidates, but you only focus on Biden. You don't focus on Trump, who beyond that has said he's going to be a dictator on day one. And every dictator in the history of the world who's been a dictator on day one has been a dictator forever. So look at Trump. Don't just focus on Biden.
But Professor Lichtman, we focus on Trump till the cows come home. I did 99 segments on loser Donald. I think Donald Trump, his IQ is in the single digits. I think he's a borderline lunatic. But the Republican voters have super clearly said, we love that lunatic, and you cannot move his base. And currently that lunatic is beating your candidate. Oops. Okay, so last couple of things here, Professor Lichtman. Look, I'm not trying.
Biden's not my candidate.
Well, it certainly sounds like it.
And I predicted Trump. You didn't in 2016.
Okay, brother.
I predicted
Okay.
Reagan in 1984.
Okay, you're the best. You're the best. Okay, so listen, brother.
Thank you.
But I'm trying to see if you have an open mind and if you're being honest with yourself, let alone the audience, because I think you're leading him in a very wrong direction right now. So when you say, hey, the last couple of polls came out and they're not so bad, you understand that it's the aggregate of the polls, because I could show you a poll where Biden is losing by 12 in Nevada. So cherry picking polls is wrong. You know that, right?
You're wrong there, of course. Polls are snapshots and they change overnight. So you can't rely on polls taken a week or 2
So the
weeks
very
ago.
last poll is the only one that should count, you think?
The most relevant polls, if polls are relevant at all, because they change so rapidly, are the most recent polls, and they're not close. Trump underwater 25 points. Biden
You think it's
underwater
not close,
8 points.
Allan Lichtman? You sound like you're on a
Biden
different
winning
planet.
in
You think it's not
Wisconsin
close
and
that
Michigan
Biden's going to blow
and
out Trump?
tied nationally.
You know he might resign tomorrow. Are you aware of anything that's going on? The NATO presser is going to be a disaster. He already called Zelensky Putin. He's already got 8 defections at the beginning of the show, and one came in during the middle saying he should resign the presidency. And you think that the aggregate of polls don't count? That's amazing. And then you mentioned the polls of the other candidates doing worse. You understand that the other candidates don't have as much name recognition now, but on election day would have massive and overwhelming name recognition, and that the polls are skewed by the fact that that they don't have much name recognition now. You acknowledge that, right?
No, a lot of these candidates have enormous name recognition. Al Gore was one of them. Hillary Clinton,
Wes Moore, Andy Bashir. People don't know these. But you see, that's what I'm saying, Professor Lichtman. It doesn't seem like you're being objective. You know that Wes Moore doesn't have enough name recognition. That's why he does poorly in the poll. Don't you know that?
He's not in that poll. Of course not. I agree with that. But certainly Hillary Clinton, Al Gore.
Nobody wants Hillary Clinton to run. Nobody's arguing for Hillary Clinton.
On the other side, they have not been subjected to all of these attacks that have been relentlessly launched for a month against Joe Biden. Despite all those attacks, he's now inched ahead in the key swing states. He's even with Trump in the national polls, and he's way ahead of Trump when it comes to approval.
Ludicrous, totally ludicrous. He's at 37% in a massive collection of polls. And so we found one exception to the rule. You say I did 10 elections right. I counted. There's 18 elections since 1948. And there's only one exception to my key, my one key. But my one key of he's an incumbent in the 30s loses. I am willing to be objective and go, unless his opponent is in the 20s, right? But you seem immovable from your keys and just a raw collection of keys. And then when you say things like, hey, if you lose the incumbency key or you lose the no contest key, that it's going to swing the election. Brother, that's correlation, that's not causation. You're making it sound like it's causation. Do you understand that critique?
Of course I understand it, and it's not correct. I am not claiming that the keys are causative. I am claiming, and it's not just me, it's eminent political scientists, all the professional forecasters agree, and I laid out all the credentials for it. The keys are predictive, not causal. And they have a 40-year track record of prediction. And indeed, Harry Truman did win when he was at 36%, and he didn't win marginally. He won by 5 points, and he brought back a Democratic Congress that the Democrats had lost in 1946. And when other candidates have been in the 30s, there's nothing to do with what the opposition was. The keys to the White House has not conflicted, has predicted their defeat.
All right, lastly, first of all, just real quick
Not in
clarification.
this case.
In 1948, the polling was so bad that they changed the methodology of polling after that presidential contest, because it was 1948, okay? But last thing is this, Professor Lichtman, I say he has a near zero chance of winning and that he's going to drop out imminently, because even his own advisors say that he has a near 0% chance of winning. But you're saying not only is he going to stay in the race, but if things continue as they are, that he's going to win. So
I did not say that. You're putting words in my mouth.
Okay, so all right, so you want to do a fake prediction? Which do you is Biden going to win or not? Because you're going all over TV and selling copium to Blue MAGA, and they're like, "Oh, I heard from legendary Professor Lichtman that he should stay in the race and he's going to win." So is he going to win or isn't he? Let's get you on the record.
I never said he was going to win. What I said was I will make a final prediction after the Democratic convention in August.
That's pretty convenient.
If you check off whether it's Biden or if Biden resigns the presidency, it's Kamala Harris, a plan B. If you check off the incumbency key and the contest key, a lot would have to go wrong for the Democrats to lose.
All right,
let me finish.
Yeah.
That's a 40-year record, and polls 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, even weeks before the election are not predictable. The worst debate in history was not Joe Biden. It was Barack Obama in his first debate against Romney, when only 20% thought he won. 33%.
So okay, I got it. You're gonna.
There was a 12-point swing.
Barack Obama and Joe Biden are not the same. You don't have eyes.
Let me finish. Don't talk over me. Romney went from -8 to +4, and all the same, off the top of their head, no scientific basis, pundits were pronouncing Barack Obama dead. And that was a poll just a few weeks before the election.
I said that debate was irrelevant because Barack Obama was strong, and the context of Barack Obama was an incredibly strong candidate. The context of Biden is that he can't remember any words. He thinks he was the first black woman to serve with the first black president. He says he's the goodest president there is. You can't. He calls Zelensky. All right. Bottom line, you're squirming out and saying, okay, well, you know what? Let me retract that. Maybe you pick it after the conventions. No, to be fair to you, maybe you pick it after the conventions, no problem, okay? But I'm trying to get you on the record here because you want to have it both ways. So if I'm right, Joe Biden's going to drop out before the convention because it's that disastrous. And if you're right, there's no way he would, hold on, let me finish this sentence. So if you're right, there's no way he would drop out because he's about to win. So if he drops out before the convention, will you say, Cenk was right, I was wrong?
No. First of all, you predicted he'd drop out a week ago. And my analysis has nothing to do with whether he will drop out or not. That's up to him, and he could be pressured by Democrats who have no notion of who's electable. You know, for years, Democrats have said, we've nominated wonderful electable, experience proven candidates like Walter Mondale in '84, former vice president. Mike Dukakis, the great governor of Massachusetts in '88, the great John Kerry, senator in '84, the former first lady, US Senator, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Yep.
And what do they all have in common? They've all lost. So yes, the Democrats foolishly could push Biden out, but I told you, I have a plan B, and that would be to preserve the two keys for the good of the country. If he's pushed out, he could resign.
Yeah.
Kamala would become president, tick off the incumbency key, and tick off the contest key. So I'm not, shilling for Biden, and I'm not biased. I've predicted as many Republican as Democratic victories, including Donald Trump in 2016, which did not make me very popular in 90% plus Democratic Washington, D.C., where I teach at American University.
Yeah, so you forgot Kamala Harris's word salad key. But I hear you, brother. You're clear, I'm clear. He's gonna drop out before the convention because, as his advisor said, he has a near 0% chance of winning. Exactly what I've been saying all along. So we'll see who's right about that. All right, Professor Allan Lichtman, thank you for being a good sport.
0% chance of beating Trump in 220.
I did not say that. You totally made that up. I said that I was worried about him in the primaries, and I was right to be worried. He nearly lost the whole thing. Any other Democrat would have been better. And in the general election, I was wrong because I thought Biden would blow out Donald Trump. I actually overestimated Biden, but I'm honest about my analysis and I give people the entire context so they can see it for themselves. You seem to be dug in on your position, but we've already aired that out. I appreciate you coming on and I appreciate that you are adamant about your case. Thank you, Professor Lichtman.
Take care.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.